O ye of little faith, evidences of the Shabbat, sighting of the moon, etc., in Near Eastern culture. So, once again, we have to dive into the subject about the calendar. We've had so many classes on the calendar. We move this to the side. You go to our Rumble channel, you'll see Saturday is not the biblical Sabbath. Biblical Sabbath lecture in Jamaica. We have part one, part two of the Shabbat question. You got declaration of times. You got two creations. Let me go back here. The Roman calendar, the Roman Gregorian calendar, part one, two, and three. And we got evening in the morning. We got day and night. We got even to even. We cover all those things. The classes are all there. Okay. The feast of booths. You got Israelites who don't believe in keeping feasts. Israelites who don't believe in circumcision. We cover a lot of things, and more videos are going to be posted up. What else we got here? Let me see.
Holy days.
New moon, Shabbats, and holy days, part one, part two. Children of the dark moon, addressing those who keep the new moon, the dark moon as the new moon, the end of the moon cycle as the beginning. Holy convocations, we covered the Creator's calendar. I mean, how many classes?
Keep going. See how much more.
How many classes do we have to put out for people to understand what we are supposed to do as Israelites? Yom Torah. Pagan Christianity, we covered that in there too, a little bit of that. All right, that's enough there. Commandment to give. Okay, so we cover a lot of things in with regards to calendar. Okay, and here we are again, adding this to the list. All right, let's move on for time's sake. Before we get into that, let's address a question that was asked about eye for an eye and tooth for a tooth. Brother O'Shea, read.
Eye for an eye and tooth for a tooth. Good afternoon, teacher Yona. I hope all is well.
All is well.
Did Christ change the law of eye for eye and tooth for tooth in Matthew 5 and verse 38? From Exodus 21 to 24, Leviticus 24, 20, and Deuteronomy 19 and verse 21.
All right, so that's the question. And my answer is very brief. Does his parables speak in favor of it, of the eye for an eye, or not? Does his parables? I'm just going to use a small example, right? Let us go, first of all, to Exodus 21 real quick, Brother Shea. Exodus 21, and let us read what it is saying here. Now, Exodus 21 is a place that a lot of people shy away from because it goes into the judgments of the Torah itself, right? Masters and marriage, having more than one wife, how to treat people who work for you, and respecting your parents and all that good stuff. Okay, so
verse 24.
Verses 24. Okay, let me see. Here we go. Let's read.
Verse 24, Exodus 21. Eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot. Burning for burning, wound for wound, stripe for stripe.
All right, so that's what it is said here. It talks about an ox. If an ox do something to somebody and people are aware, the owner of the ox is aware of this ox being a wild ox and hurting people, then he speaks about putting, the ox shall be stoned and his owner also shall be put to death. Why? Because the person had knowledge that your beast harms people.
Yeah.
Like you have a dog, the dog attacks people. You should have the animal put up, tied somewhere. Right? So this is, the question will be for 29. Is this an eye for an eye? Does this fall on an eye for an eye? Mishpachah? Yes, this is still part of it, because if if somebody's hurt because of this reason, you have to put this thing, you have to repay this thing for the crime that is committed. It's basically the thing that meets the crime. This is what he's saying, an eye for an eye. Okay? The thing that meets the crime. A woman puts her hand, when a husband is in a fight with another Hebrew, and a woman puts her hand and grabs the secret
parts
of the husband's adversary. The Bible says her hand has to be removed. I didn't say it. The Bible said so. Okay. And it didn't say, well, who was right from who was wrong. Okay. All right. Now, so you go through all of this and you'll see it's still dealing with eye for an eye. Okay.
Continue. Leviticus 24.
Leviticus 24 and 20. Let's get that one. Leviticus 24. 24. And verses 20. Let's go there. 24 and 20. Let's read.
Breach for breach, eye for eye, tooth for tooth. As he hath caused a blemish in a man, so shall it be done to him again.
Let's read 21.
And he that killeth a beast, he shall restore it. And he that killeth a man, he shall be put to death.
Okay, so is this thing important? If somebody runs over your dog and kills the dog, what would be the right thing to do?
Replace the dog.
Replace the dog, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that what the Bible is talking about?
Yeah.
If somebody take the money from you, what should be done to that person? They have to do what, Elder?
Repay them the money.
Repay it. So isn't that an eye for an eye and tooth for tooth?
Yeah, same thing.
They took the money from you. You got to take it back from them. Is that correct? Does everybody agree with that?
It is. It still stands.
Is there anyone who disagree with that? Put a 2 in the chat.
You see,
anybody who disagrees, put a 2 in the chat.
They come with the ideology of Jesus just say, we don't do that no more. It's all love. But not understanding that Yeshua was talking about, this is the law. The law still stands. But you have to have compassion when you're dealing with your brother and your sister.
That is it right there on the head. It is. It's all, when Yeshua was teaching, people have lost the compassion aspect of things. They have lost the compassion of the Torah, was gone. Most of it was gone. Okay? All right. So let us go to Luke chapter 20. Luke 20.
You want to do Deuteronomy 19?
Okay. You want to do Deuteronomy? Let's grab it.
I mean, it's saying the same thing.
Yeah, 19. Because if you have to cherry pick through this thing, you're going to have problems.
Deuteronomy 19 and verse 21, which is saying the same thing. Verse 21 reads, and thine eye shall not pity, but life shall go for life, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot. So it's basically the law still stands. And has been covered in both.
And here's the catch to this thing too, right? Here's the thing that's interesting. The irony of this. People practice this thing every single day when you go to court. When you defraud someone, the judge makes sure that you have to pay back plus a little extra on top of the table too.
Interest.
Right? Isn't that how it works?
Yeah.
The repo man shows up and they take back the thing, right? If you do something will be administered back onto you. All right, so let's get Luke chapter 20. Let's look at the parables and see if Yeshua, if the eye for an eye is found in his teachings.
And we wouldn't have a problem with the system doing it, but when it comes to the Torah, we don't want to do it.
That's the amazing thing. That is that is what baffles me. Why is it that every time we open the book, for some reason your brain shuts down? Luke chapter 20, verses 8 to 16. Let us read.
Luke 20, verse 8 to 16. And Yeshua said unto them, neither tell I you by what authority I do these things. Then began he to speak to the people this parable. A certain man planted a vineyard and led it forth to husbandmen, and went into a far country for a long time. And at the season, he sent a servant to the husbandmen that they should give him of the fruit of the vineyard. But the husbandmen beat him.
Did what?
Beat him and sent him away empty.
See that? So somebody got abused. Go ahead.
And again, he sent another servant, and they beat him also and entreated him shamefully and sent him away empty.
2 servants got abused. Go ahead.
And again, he sent a third, and they wounded him also and cast him out.
3.
Verse 13. Then said the Adonai of the garden, or the Lord of the garden, the vineyard, what shall I do? I will send my beloved son. It may be they will reverence him when they see him. But when the husbandmen saw him, they reasoned among themselves, saying, this is the heir. Come, let us kill him, that the inheritance may be ours. So they cast him out of the vineyard and killed him. What therefore shall the Lord of the vineyard do unto them? He shall come and destroy these husbandmen.
No, he's just going to pardon them.
He shall come and destroy these husbandmen and shall give the vineyard to others. And when they heard it, they said, God forbid.
Amazing. Isn't that amazing? Does that sound like an eye for an eye? Like, oh, just let it slide. Let's forgive them. No.
Nope.
He still had to do something for the crime that they committed. Do y'all see it?
And the difference is here between reading from verse 8 to 16 and when we read in the law was, back then it was instant. This is the problem that Christianity and other people are having. When they see something instantly happening, the man dropped dead right away, or the earth opened up right away. Here in the so-called New Testament, when we're reading the gospel and the letters, compassion is added to it. So it's to say you have a grace period, a time of repentance, but the punishment doesn't go away. The punishment is still there.
Still have to do it. Still have to pay the price.
You ain't gonna drop dead right away, but you can drop dead tomorrow or the next week, or your son or your daughter down the line.
Here's another example. Let's get Matthew chapter 7, verses 1 to 3.
Judge not, that ye be not judged.
So if you do an eye, it'll be meted back to you again. Let's see in verses 2.
For with what judgment ye judge,
whatever you do, go ahead.
You shall be judged.
It will return back to you. Go ahead.
And with what measure ye meet, it shall be measured to you again.
Isn't that the same eye for an eye? Same thing.
Same thing.
Go ahead, verses 3.
And why beholdest thou the mote that is in thy brother's eye, but considerest not the beam that is in thine own eye?
See that? So, do y'all see so far that his parables are showing you an eye for an eye?
Yep.
Y'all see it? Yeah. Okay. Let's get Matthew 5, chapter 5. We're going to read 17 and 18. 2 verses, and then we're going to get right into the luminaries. 17 and 18. Let's get it.
Matthew 5, verse 17 and verse 18. Think not that I am come to destroy the law.
Isn't the eye for an eye part of the law?
It is.
Okay, go ahead.
Or the prophets.
Isn't that also part of the prophets? Go ahead.
I am not come to destroy, but to fulfill.
Let's read verse 18.
For verily I say unto you, till heaven and earth pass, we still have heaven and earth. One jot,
one little jot,
or one tittle, shall in no wise pass from the law till all be fulfilled.
Y'all see that? What part of that did Brother Yonah twist?
Do you like how? Do you like the tone of your voice?
The tone of my voice.
Yeah, it's too hard.
All right, Mishpachah. So I hope that answers the question. I hope everybody's able to see it. Brother, if you're listening, I hope it satisfies your heart, okay? Everybody satisfied? Is there any disagreement? Put a 2 and run real fast. Drop the 2 real quick. Come on now. All right, let's get it. Let's go now. Sighting of the moon, etc. in Near Eastern culture. This is a very bad argument that people tend to say. Let's read.
I don't see anyone doing it in the Bible, so I am not doing it.
talking about using the moon and the sun and the stars. They don't see that in the Bible. Where did our people go and look for moon and all that stuff? Okay. Well, let's look at Ezekiel first. Let's go to Ezekiel. Let's go to Ezekiel.
Mishpachah, in this chat that we have, how many? We have a lot of people right now listening in. And it's sad to say that even those that are listening in, still, you're going to find some that's going to say, I don't get it. I don't believe it. It's not true. It's just sad.
I want you to read verses 4, and we'll skip down to 8 and 10, just to give the context.
Ezekiel chapter 3, verses 4. And he said unto me, Son of man, go, get you unto the house of Israel, and speak with my words unto them.
See, my words, okay? Let's get verses 8 to verses 10.
Behold, I have made thy face strong against their faces, and thy forehead strong against their foreheads. As an adamant harder than flint have I made thy forehead.
Boy, oh boy.
Fear them not, neither be dismayed at their looks.
So they're going to look at you a certain way, and they're hoping by coming to you a certain way that you are going to melt, and you're going to bend and buckle and fold.
Look at you
like
sideways.
You said, like a cheap suit, right? Go ahead.
Though they be a rebellious house.
The Most High is saying that these people with a hard head is a rebellious house. He says, I'm going to make your head even harder than their head. Verses 10.
Moreover, he said unto me, Son of man, all my words that I shall speak unto thee, receive in thine heart and hear with thine ears.
Y'all see that?
This is Ezekiel 3, verses 8, 9, and 10. Okay.
Well, we read verses 4 first, and then so we can get everything in context, and then we moved on from 8 to verses 10. So this is what we're dealing with. We're dealing with Israelites that no matter how you try to bring it, their head is so hard, you got to make your head even harder. You can't come softer to them because they will crush you. And then when they crush you, the whole thing is gonna fall apart. Is that what you want? Do you want a ministry that falls apart? Do you want a ministry that is catering to the resurrection of the house of Israel through the truth?
Holes in the bucket ministry.
I wasn't saying the law was done, but done away with, but about turning the cheek. Well, okay, so when it comes to turning the cheek, it depends. That's mercy. That is like the Most High doesn't punish you right away, but he gets you later on. Turning the cheek includes yourself likewise, because you want someone to be merciful unto you. There's another story where there was a guy who owed his master some money. The master turned the cheek, basically, and allow him some time. And that person turned around and found someone that owed him some money and beat that person and threw him into prison, his whole family into prison. When the message came back to the main master, the big guy, he said, how come you couldn't be merciful? I showed you mercy. You could have done the same thing.
Turn the cheek, you turn your cheek too.
And this is where the turn of the cheek stops. You can't turn a cheek after that. Okay? Because you see, a master can become a servant tomorrow, and he would want someone to have favor or mercy on him. This is why it's written this way. The Torah is written to safeguard everybody. The one who's given it, right, who is in charge, he also needs to have mercy too, right? And the person who is subject, the servant, likewise, they need to have mercy, because that servant can become rich tomorrow. If he becomes rich and the master becomes a pauper, the master is going to be he will need to be remembered or want to be remembered for the good deeds that he did to the servant. The servant will say, Master, you took good care of me. You never abused me. You gave me access to everything. In other words, it's like an Eliezer. You wanted to even make me your son. And now you are old. You fall upon hard times. You lost all that you have. I saved up because you gave me a little allowance. I saved it up. And now I'm going to take you into my house and I'll take good care of you, master. That's what the Torah is all about. Okay? I hope everybody understands that. And that's what I'm trying to teach to our people. Stop being afraid of the Torah. Stop being afraid of the Torah. All right, let's move on for time's sake. Things not spelled out in the Bible, therefore I can't follow. So I didn't see anywhere where fathers used to spit in the face of the children. So I'm not following that. But God said it out of his own mouth. And even when God said it, you're still not going to follow it. It's plain and simple. All right. So there's a lot of things that we don't see in the Bible. Is there any evidence that Jesus or his disciples or any other biblical personality ever brushed their teeth? Heathens did it, therefore it must be evil, right? So according to history, let's read the history, Brother Shay.
The history of brushing teeth is as intriguing as it is multifaceted, with its roots tracing back to various ancient civilizations worldwide. It is believed that the practice of toothbrushing was first introduced by the Egyptians and Babylonians around 3000 BC.
You see, Brother O'Shea, the Egyptians did it, so that's pagans. That's pagans, brother. We don't do as the pagans do. So the pagans brush their teeth. We're not supposed to brush teeth too. The Babylonians, you see, you're talking about following luminaries and stars and stuff. The Babylonians did it, so we're not supposed to do it too. The Babylonians were the ones that, according to history, first introduced by the Egyptians and the Babylonians. What? Brushing of teeth, the history of brushing teeth. So guess what, brother? Don't brush your teeth.
Yeah.
There's no place in the Bible where it says to brush your teeth.
No.
There's no place in the Bible where it says to floss. Just come with your funky mouth, but don't come around me.
I want to pull two things up.
All right, we want to read this first, or you want to pull?
Just pull it up first.
Okay.
Genesis 49:12 is just to show you common sense. Because a lot of people don't have common sense. See, because it was common practice, but it wasn't nothing written in the law or scripted. So people says, well, brushing teeth wasn't there. Genesis 49 and verse 12. It says, his eyes shall be red with wine and his teeth white with milk. So I put this there to say, okay, they're telling you that teeth can be white, right?
With milk. Take the milk and gargle with some milk. Do this.
So what does it tell you? There's dirty teeth and there's clean teeth. Now let's look at Amos 4 and verse 6, and then we'll go back to the other one.
Amos 4 and 6.
Amos 4 and 6.
Famous Amos 4 and 6. All right.
It says, and I also have given you cleanness of teeth in all your cities.
How?
That's the question.
How?
And want of bread in all your places. Yet have ye not returned unto me, saith Yahuwah. So it doesn't tell you to brush your teeth or to gargle or to floss, but it's common practice. It's hygiene that we do, right?
Sometimes I want to say things and I just have to shake my head because I'm thinking, I don't know how people study, but it's not that difficult. It's not that, the Torah is not that difficult. It's not difficult, okay? But you want to have schools to break it down. Let's read. The Egyptians?
Well, I'm up here. This early adoption of oral hygiene resulted from the realization that cleanliness was paramount in averting decay and diseases. The Egyptians and Babylonians invented the earliest known form of a toothbrush, referred to as a chew stick. And I've seen people use that. This rudimentary tool consisted of a twig fashioned with a frayed end, which they used to scrub the teeth clean. And this is from the Surprising History of Brushing Teeth.
Y'all see that? So this is just a little sarcasm with some knowledge, information to add to your library of knowledge so that you can see how crazy some people could really be, because you would hear the arguments against a lot of things. Now, there are things that the Babylonians and Egyptians did that the Most High said for us not to do. But if they ate bread, I mean, Abraham went to Egypt to get stuff. Even Yeshua went down to Egypt to be safe. What do you think he ate over there? No. You know what he did? What his parents did? They called for Uber Eats all the way from Jerusalem.
Special.
They placed an order and they got all the things that they need from Hebrew Amazon and
delivered
Hebrew,
by the camel. The camel come down.
Because they were in Egypt, but they didn't partake in anything in Egypt. Like, listen, there's a line that things have to be drawn at. Some stuff is just ridiculous in how people think. But anyway, it brought us recent declaration of faith.
The weekly Sabbath is a continuous 7-day week that does not reset.
The weekly Shabbat is a continuous, keep an eye on that word, continuous 7-day week that does not reset. Read.
The feast days are seasonal. And we use the moon to mark the seasons and the feast days.
So basically, what the brother's trying to say is that the luminaries have nothing to do with the weekly cycle. Okay, it is only dealing with seasonal stuff like Passover and tabernacles and Torah and stuff like that. Read on.
Therefore, Saturday is the Sabbath.
Therefore, Saturday is a Sabbath. So this is a brother. I'm not going to call out his name. If he's listening, he knows exactly who he is. But this is an example of an Israelite making this type of declaration, and some of you may be doing that very, very soon enough. Some of you might be exiting the room right now. What was the brother's source for his argument? It was the Harper's Bible Dictionary. Harper's Bible Dictionary. See, there's a picture of it there. Okay, it's an example. So you have in the Torah many things. You have different learned or scholars who put out information, some for, some against, and such like. But we're going to use some of Harper to see if Harper is making sense, okay? And then we're going to look at some other things to make our case, and then we're going to say shalom. So this is a source of argument. Looking at a snapshot of the page about the Shabbat, and some things was underlined here. Can you read, Brother Shay?
The biblical Shabbat was ordained as a weekly institution with no relation whatsoever to the lunar cycle.
So this is the Harper's dictionary, Bible dictionary. Let me go back up. Bible dictionary that is saying, making a statement. Go ahead.
Let me continue.
Yeah.
Moreover, the somber nature of the Babylonian evil days stands in stark contrast to the joyous nature of the Shabbat.
So what if you do the deeper research, the Babylonians call what they call Shabbats, which using the luminaries, evil days. And the person is trying to make this assessment. How can the Shabbat be considered evil? The Babylonians are saying that it is an evil day. That's a rest day based on the luminaries. But the Hebrews is calling it a joyous time. Just because the Babylonians call something that's based on luminaries evil, why should we call it evil? All right, no problem.
Simple question.
Let's look at this next snapshot of this argument, the source of argument. Let's read the highlighted part, the underlined part, the origin.
The origins of the Shabbat may be obscure.
Now, notice that Harper is saying, using the word, the origin of the Shabbat may. That's a doubting word, right? They're not sure. And then they follow up with a word called obscure. What does obscure mean? Anybody knows what obscure means? It's not what? It's not clearly seen.
Something is blocking.
It's not clear. So if something is not clear, why would this particular Harper be an authority on the subject about the Shabbat? Why would you want to minister any understanding if you're not clear about something?
You're
not sure of it.
I just shake my head because You can't start with saying the origin. If you're saying the origin, that means that you are sure 100%.
Exactly.
The origin of the Shabbat is not clear. Oh, wait a minute. Okay, we'll see. Go ahead.
Let's read that again. The origin.
The origin of the Shabbat may be obscure, but it is useless to derive it from Babylonian or to connect it with the phases of the moon.
So this person, the author of this section called the Shabbat, I believe it is claiming that we can't make it connected to the moon, the phases of the moon, right? Okay. All right, so let us do some digging here. Let's see what else Harper talks about. Now, they have a section called convocation. This is a snapshot of it. And on page 180, let's take a look at convocation. So we're gonna look at convocation and we're gonna see what it has to say about that. Okay, read.
The Hebrew Mikra declaration, a calling together or a summons to meet.
Summons, so something has to summon you to meet, correct? All right.
Something is calling you.
You need something to let you know when the thing is. Go ahead.
The term appears primarily in the phrase holy convocation and signifies the call to assembly at the sanctuary for the Israelite congregation on a holy day.
Read.
The days decreed as a holy convocation were the weekly Shabbat.
So now they're saying that the holy convocation is a weekly Shabbat. What else? Let's go through the line here.
Passover. The festivals of weeks. The first day of the month. Day of Atonement. The first and 8th day of the Festival of Booths.
So all of them are under the umbrella of holy convocations. Let's skip down to characteristics.
Characteristics of these days was the prohibition of work.
So basically Shabbats. Let's read.
The convocation was called by the blowing of a special trumpet.
Wait a minute. So if you want to know that this is a holy day, somebody got to signify by blowing. And that for that person to blow, they need to see something. They need to know something.
No, it's obscure. They can't see.
Say that again.
It's obscure. They can't see it.
Brethren, are y'all with me so far? Y'all with me so far? Tell me yes or no if you're not, if you're lost in the sauce.
Put a 1 in the chat if you understand. Put a 2 if you don't understand.
So Harper is putting the weekly along with the rest. Remember what the brother said before. Let's go back. Remember what he said before. He says,
the weekly Shabbat is a continuous 7-day week that does not reset.
It doesn't reset, doesn't stop and then reset and then start again.
The feast days are seasonal.
It says the feast days are seasonal. So,
and we use
is the Shabbat a feast day?
It is a feast day.
Yeah. Okay, but he's saying it's seasonal. Go ahead.
And we use the moon to mark the seasons and feast days.
So he's saying that the Shabbat is not a feast day. Basically, by the way he's wording things, it's not a feast day. And we don't use the moon for
the Shabbat.
The Shabbat.
Only for the feast days.
Only for the feast day. All right. And Saturday happens to be that feast or that Shabbat, right?
Yeah.
Okay, let's move back on here. All right, let's look at page 305.
2 calendars here.
I'm asking a question. Is it 2 calendars here? But let's read. Old
Testament feasts and festivals.
This is a section, Old Testament feasts and festivals.
The Pentateuch prescribes the observance of several recurring festivals or otherwise positive religious occasions. Every 7th day was to be set apart as a Shabbat.
Now, what is festal? Remember, the subject is feasts and festivals. The brother says this is not a feast. The feasts are seasonal. This is Harper. We're still in Harper. We're still in Harper. And Harper's telling you that the 7th day is a feast. Is under the title Feast and Festivals. Do y'all see that? Okay. All right.
On which no work was to be performed.
All right, let's skip down. On the
first day of each lunar month, a special series of sacrifices was to be made. These new moon festivals.
These what?
These new moon festivals were days of feasting.
But wait a minute. The brother said that the moon has no connection, none whatsoever, to the seventh-day Sabbath. But Harper, and he's basing his evidence from Harper, yet Harper is saying, because Harper's saying one thing from their mouth over here, and then another thing over here from their mouth. This is why you got to check upstream before you drink downstream. So they are saying that on the first day, so they recognize that every lunar month have what? A first day. And brethren, if there's a first day, there must be a what? A second day and a third day until you get to a Sabbath.
A seventh day.
And as you add days turn into weeks, weeks turn into months, months turn into years. And within the months, then you have the seasonal one, but it begins where? Day number one.
And just real simple, Mishpachah, because when you ask them the questions, they can't not answer it, but then they want to argue with you. How do we get to day number 7? See, Hebrews don't like counting. I always say this. See, they wanted to say Saturday, but you cannot find the word Saturday anywhere in the Bible. But you find seventh day. So how do you get to number 7? You got to start somewhere. So if the new moon is starting the month, and I always tell people start from the beginning, start in the month, and you say this is day number 1, then all you have to do is simply count number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, number 6, and here we have number 7.
Brethren, you notice I didn't even put Leviticus 23 up, right, to make my case. You want to know why? Because we have already done that so many times already. We have put that thing out and I'm repeating myself, so many times already.
Yeah, Hebrews like counting money, right?
Yeah, Hebrews like counting money, but they don't like to count days.
No.
That's a good one. I like that. I need to borrow that. Can I have it?
You can have it.
Hebrews like counting money.
Dollars.
But they don't like counting days.
Days.
All right. So notice that Harper is acknowledging that there is a first day of a lunar month. All right. Go ahead. These new moon
festivals were days of feasting.
1 Samuel
20, verses 5, 18, 24, and 27.
And
apparently days of rest.
So a day of rest is a Shabbat.
You have to rest on the Shabbats. It's a law.
It's an off time, right? Off day. So once again, Harper's telling you, let me go back here. Do you see how the knuckleheads play? Let's go back here. Read this part in Harper about the Shabbat, the biblical.
The biblical Shabbat was ordained as a weekly institution with no relation whatsoever to the lunar cycle.
Okay.
So they're saying the weekly Shabbat does not connect to the moon.
All right. Read this part.
But here they're telling you the new moon festivals were days of feasting and apparently days of rest. So it connects to the moon. Which one is it? Of the new moon festivals,
such as the
Feast of Trumpets.
See, Feast of Trumpets. See, of the new moon festivals that in the 7th month, the Feast of Trumpets, right? That's important. You have the Passover.
So, Feast of Unleavened Bread.
You have the Feast of Weeks. All of these are feasts. Y'all see that? Okay. If there is a first day of a lunar month, then every 7th day was to be set apart. Every 7th day, it says every 7th day, right up here, y'all see it? Every 7th day was to be set apart. So you got every 7th day set apart, right? How many days is that? If you have a first day of the lunar month and every 7th day was set apart, what do you have? Because the new moon is set apart by itself. Then you got 7 days after that.
Rebbe, you got to convert it to money for them.
I don't know. I don't know. I'll just leave that alone because anyway. Harper's bullspit. Let's read this part right here.
The holy sorry, the gift of the Holy Spirit.
Okay, no, we don't want that part. Let's read. Because
the cardinal event of the Christian faith, the resurrection of Jesus, occurred on a Sunday, Christians turned to that day rather than the Sabbath Saturday for their regular worship.
Now, with a sleight of hand, they're saying that the Sabbath, by injecting the word in brackets Saturday, it gives the reader this thing in their head that is the seventh day. Saturday is the seventh day. Harper calls the Shabbat the Shabbat Saturday, yet noted that there were no names given to months. Let's look at page 1073. Let's read, quote,
"The Gospels presume the Jewish reckoning of time in terms of a 7-day week.
A 7-day week.
There are no names for months cited in the New Testament.
There are no names for months. So if there's no name for months, do you think there are names for days?
No days, no months.
Family?
No name.
Brother Pinker says, Ezekiel 46:1.
That's a good point.
Thus saith Yahweh Elohim, the gate of the inner court that looketh toward the east shall be shut the 6 working days, but on the Shabbat it shall be open. That's 7th day. And in the day of the new moon, it shall be open. That's another 8th day. So when you add that all up, the new moon, first of all, is the first thing. That's why it says, let me go back over here. That's why it says, Harper is saying on the first day of each lunar month. That's separate. Ezekiel is saying that's separate. And then you got 6 working days, and then you have the rest day, which is Shabbat.
70. Yeah.
Y'all see that? Thank you, Brother Pincus. Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you so much. All right. So this is Harper's bullspit. Let's look at some more bullspit. Do as the Romans do. This is what Harper's putting out on page 575. So if I'm supposed to use this as my source, I might as well do the same thing here too. Let's read.
"It is likely that many early Christians observe both the Shabbat, the 7th day of the week, Saturday, and the Lord's Day. Paul may have objected to Gentile Christians adopting a Shabbat observance, Galatians 4:10. The letter of the Colossians instructed its readers that Shabbat observance was not required."
See that? So now Harper is insinuating or implying that Colossians was against keeping Shabbat. Also implying that they kept Saturday and also what the world calls Sunday. So if you're following that source and saying, well, this is my evidence to prove my case, you might as well do this also. Let's read the letter to the let's read the rest right here.
Colossians 2:16. Ignatius, bishop of Antioch, wrote in the early part of the 2nd century that the Lord's Day should be observed in place of the Shabbat. Ignatius,
you can leave that. Okay, so basically, again, you have a bishop of Antioch making a statement that the Shabbat was replaced, but not just the Shabbat. Saturday was replaced for Sunday. So, brother, keep Sunday because you're following Harper's to make your point. That don't make any sense.
Following Saturday.
Let's read page 653. You good?
Yeah. Okay. In spite of these denunciations, evidence of cultic celebration of lunar phases is found in the biblical text.
So they are acknowledging, they call it cultic because according to historians, when you are diehard about something is considered a cult. Okay. Evidence for cultic celebration. Let's remove the word cultic for a second. Evidence for celebration of lunar phases is found where? In the biblical text. This is Harper making a statement.
He's saying that there is evidence that tells you that the new moon is linked to the Shabbats. There are biblical texts about it.
There's biblical references of connection of holy days or holy time periods or things that are holy that ties into the luminaries, okay? In particular the moon. All right, let's see. Numbers 28.
Numbers 28 to 11 to 15. preserves a ritual calendar that details monthly offerings for the moon. This passage is still read in traditional synagogues on the Shabbat when the new moon is pronounced. Numbers 10:10 and Psalms 81 verse 4 instruct the population to sound the horn at the new moon as a way of offering praise to Elohim. The new moon is celebrated by David and Jonathan. 1 Samuel and verse 20. Remnants of lunar celebration are evidence in the celebrations and gatherings in the historical passages.
All right, you can skip down here.
So most of these include mention of the Shabbat.
Wait a minute. Most of these include mention of Shabbat. This is Harper. Read on. It appears
that at the time of the new moon, all commerce was halted. Amos 8:5. And the prophet was not consulted. 2 Kings 4:23.
Y'all see that? Rest time. Rest time. So, brethren, I could stop right here, but let's move on. Page 653 in referral.
In referring to the new month, the biblical author uses the term new renewal, Hebrews Kodesh, rather than either of the standard terms for moon. Terms for the lunar crescent refer specifically to the first and fourth crescents.
Read.
Calendar. The calendar employed by the Hebrews of the Old Testament was based entirely on observation.
Wait a minute. So Harper is saying that there's no connection with Shabbats to the luminaries. But then Harper turns around and says that the Hebrews followed a calendar that was based entirely on observation. Observing what? What do you observe?
Their fingers.
The boogers in your nose? What do you observe?
Sticks and stones.
Let's read on.
The determination of years was based on solar observation, whereas months were determined by lunar observations.
What?
Months were determined by lunar observations.
Read on.
Only the festivals, Passover and Sukkot, are celebrated at the approach of the full moons.
Full moon.
Like I always say.
So the full moon is Passover. That's the 14th, right?
Middle of the month.
All right, let's read on. We'll come back to that.
And look, Harper is telling you this, so don't listen to us.
So then you have two calendars. If you got a 14 established, you should go in reverse. Anyway, read on.
These holidays come as close as is possible in the lunar solar system to marking the vernal and autumnal equinox, respectively. The weekly Shabbat is a continuous 7-day week that does not reset.
That's what the brother said. Read.
The feast days are seasonal, and we use the moon to mark the seasons and feast days.
All right, let's look at that word that he says. It's continuous. It doesn't reset. But when you look up the word renewal, look at the word renewal here. Harper is saying, in referring to the new month, the biblical author uses the term new, which is renewal. Renewal. What is renewal? Let's read.
An instance of resuming an activity or state after an interpretation.
No, read it again. Interruption, brother.
Sorry.
Read it again.
An instant of resuming an activity or state after an interruption.
An instance of resuming an activity. So something is moving, all of a sudden it does what? It stops. Or state after an interruption. So when something is interrupted, it has to be renewed again. Am I a dunce? Am I the only dunce in this room here?
I think we all
did I misread something, family? Please. I know there are teachers and people that are more educated than me. Maybe you might have 2 or 3 degrees. Can somebody please tell me if I'm wrong? Please, out of love. Brother Yona, you're wrong. Brother Yona, you're wrong. Thank you, Ema. Let me put my dunce cap together. See that? Dunce cap. Dunce cap. Common sense, like Keith always say, is not so common. Harper states that the new month goes through a renewal. Let's look at that definition. We already did that. Also, if the months are determined by lunar, where does the Shabbats fit? If the months is determined by the moon, where's a Sabbath and all of that? Because the Sabbath have to be inside of a month, not outside of a month. And if it's inside of the month, if the moon tells me when the month, if the word month and moon is the same, and the moon is helping me to know the month, then what do you think the Shabbat, what happens with the Shabbat? There must be a first day to let me know when the seventh day is going to be.
Foolish brothers.
And then when you keep going through it, then it builds up until you get to seasons. Now it lets me know when the next rest season day is going to be. That's how it works. It's not that difficult, brethren.
No, see, God has a separate calendar and Jesus has a separate calendar. So everything is, there's two, there must be two calendars, Rebbe. There have to be two calendars.
I got Africa is telling me I'm on point. I got America is telling me I'm on point. Do I get anyone from Great Britain, UK? Any Tychus from over there?
Everybody have their own calendar.
Do we have anybody outside of Africa? Brother, Akin, they're going to say the African people are backward. And so, you know how Israelites are. You know how some Israelites are. Maybe you need to whisper to them that you once served the crown. And no dummy is going to serve the crown in England.
Mishpachah, it's just sad to see that our people wrestle with something that is so simple.
All right, let me do something here. Do we have any teachers in the room? Anyone who's a teacher, an educator? Do we have any teachers? Photo one. Oh yes. I would like to hear from from teachers. If you're a teacher, please say something. All right, let's move on. Let's look at page 653.
According to early rabbinic sources, the new moon was originally fixed by proclamation of witnesses regarding the reappearance of the moon's crescent.
So Harper is acknowledging that ancient Israelites back in those days, first century, the new moon was originally fixed by proclamation of witnesses regarding the reappearance of the moon's crescent, that little tiny slither of light, right? Okay, read on.
It's simple.
Sister Zahara says correct. Are you a teacher? You're not telling me if you're a teacher or not.
If the crescent had not been sighted on the 13th day of the month, the new moon was proclaimed for the 31st day.
So if you didn't see it, just like what we do here.
Let me read it again.
Harper is doing saying the same thing that we do. We don't see it. What do we say? Brethren, look out for the moon the next night. Don't we say that?
All the time. And you're guaranteed to see it the next night.
So we are doing that thing. That brother's reading from Harper. He has a problem with us, but he agreed with one side of Harper. Which side do you... What is it? Do I need to join Harper and write a little portion in there?
Read again. If the crescent had not been sighted on the 30th day of the month, the new moon was proclaimed for the 31st day. Beacons were kindled on the Mount of Olives to mark the arrival of the new moon crescent.
So people had to physically go out and see and then light fires. Well, brother, that's not found in the Bible.
It's not written.
It's not in the Bible.
Moses don't say to go look for the new moon. It's not in the law. That's what they want to find.
People want to see
things written.
You know why we had to have teachers to break down what Genesis 1 and 14 meant? Because when it says it's a sign, and then the Bible speaks about having witnesses, it takes everything is not written out plainly that you can see. This is why we had teachers in ancient Israel. The problem is that you have people in today's time that have access to so much Google information is trying to use that technique or that understanding of that way of viewing things and trying to apply it to a time when people had to memorize stuff. People didn't write down a whole bunch of stuff. You just know it is what it is.
Passed down.
You just know doo-doo is doo-doo. You don't need someone to give you a picture of doo-doo and a sample and all kinds of stuff, and then break it down with a PhD. Come on now. You know a woman was a woman back then. Now you're confused. Come on now. Google University. I like that one, Angela. Google University.
This system was extended throughout the diaspora until the Samaritans began to light misleading beacons to confuse the calendar and the observance of the new moon. So Harper's telling you this. The High Court countered this attack on rabbinic authority by sending messengers to remote communities with the announcement of the new moon.
All right, that's enough there. Let's move on for time's sake. All right, so this is a book. So we looked at Harper. Harper has said its piece, and there was so much more I could have gleaned, but I says, nah. If they don't get it, there's nothing I can do. Right, Ema? All right, theological word book of the Old Testament. I'm getting a little bit thing here. All right.
Silver at sunset.
Sliver at sunset. This is a portion that they have, a sliver at sunset. Let's read.
The new moon began when the thin crescent of the new moon was first visible at sunset.
Y'all see that? Theological Word Book of the Old Testament, Volume 1, page 266. Some people would say, I don't see anyone doing it in the Bible, so I'm not doing it.
Okay, you just don't do it then.
Then the Most High told Moses, if her father but spit. All right, let's move on. Chodesh. It means what?
Month. Monthly, new moon. Although this word properly means new moon, it is commonly used as an equivalent to our word month, because the month began. The month began when the thin crescent of the new moon was first visible at sunset.
All right, that's all we need from that. Skip down to where it says Hebrew calendar.
The Hebrew calendar used a lunar month.
Y'all see that? Go ahead.
Fitted into a solar year.
Y'all see that?
This was done by adding an extra month approximately once every 3 years, because it was about 11 days less than the solar year.
And this is from the same book, the Theological Word Book of Old Testament, Volume 1, page 266. Let's read this portion here. Early Israel.
In early Israel, the first of each month or new moon was determined by observation and proclaimed officially by the blowing of trumpets.
All right, let's skip down to...
When Chodesh refers only to the beginning of the month, it is naturally translated new moon.
Which is what?
Which was a feast day. It is one of the appointed feasts and is listed with the Shabbat.
It's appointed feast and listed with what?
The Shabbat.
With the Sabbath. Go ahead.
And the pilgrim feast as involving burnt offerings.
All right. And is also what?
And is also characterized by the blowing of trumpets.
So we have it's written in the book that we must blow the shofar, right? We also blow the shofar when we meet here too on Shabbats. Come on now. And you can read on some more. All right. Later on, when the video is posted, you can go back and you can look at the whole thing and read all of the information here. The two new moon days is based on, if you don't see it this time, you look out the next time you see it. So you had a portion of 2-day period, because the moon is like, let me use this analogy. It's very simple. You're driving a car at 50 miles an hour, right? Or 75 miles an hour on a straight road. 75 miles an hour, you're able to keep that speed. But then a corner comes up. What are you supposed to do? You reduce the speed. Remember, you're going at 75 miles per hour. Now, when you reduce the speed, you got to reduce it down to at least half of that. When you reduce it to half of that, guess what happens to the time? the time increases. So when the time increases, the only time you can pick back up the same speed is when you move away from that curve.
That went over to some people's heads. Some people
that turn. The moon is going through a turning point. So sometimes you have that period of time when it's kind of slows down in that way, if that makes sense. And then it goes back on track.
This is why when we see David talking to Jonathan and it says, we don't see it tonight, come back the next night, you'll see it.
All right. So let's move on to our next slide. Let us move on. We'll try to pick up some speed here. All right. Let's read here. This is from this same book.
Light is frequently used as an indicator of time.
Read it one more time.
Light is frequently used as an indicator of time.
All right. So it's dealing with the luminaries. It's telling you that the luminaries help you to know time. And time is connected to what? A calendar.
Mm-hmm.
Every day, we need something to let us know that it's daytime. If you live in Alaska, this time of the year, the sun just winked for 2 seconds. No, it stays dark. This time of the year, it stays dark all the time. But in the summertime, it just winks for 2 seconds. Mm-hmm. You're like, wait a minute. When is the nighttime? There's no nighttime.
It's dark
in the summer. And in the wintertime, it's dark all the time. The sun just blinked for a couple of seconds and it's dark again. Yep. You need light to let you know the periods of time.
You look outside and it's still light outside and is
yeah, Brother Michael, it's too complicated for a lot of people. All right, let's read the highlighted part.
These heavenly luminaries
actually read this part also
refers to
sorry.
Every passage that speaks of the shining or the light or the sun also refers to the light of the moon and sometimes also the stars.
Read. These
heavenly luminaries are an integral part of the wonder of the cosmos as founded by the Creator and serve as a clock.
And do what?
Serve as a clock.
One more time.
Serve as a clock to regulate the seasons.
We can stop right here. It serves as a clock to regulate the seasons. They got all the scriptures right there. This is theological. Remember, Brother Yona's not theological. He's not that, you don't have a bunch of names, numbers, and letters and different things behind it, Word book of the Old Testament. If I had to put out a book like that and they open up the book and saw a picture of my face, they'll say, nah, that's Negro business. We don't want that. Close that thing. But when they open it up and see a guy look like Abraham Lincoln, George Washington, oh man, this is some good stuff.
Truth.
This is truth with an F. Truth. Let's move on to the next. The moon connected to feast days, but not the Shabbat. That don't make any sense. Let's see what this book has to say.
According to Exodus 12, the Passover was to be celebrated at the full moon in the first month of the year, Abib, which is between March and April of the heathens' month. On the 10th day of the month, every family chose a 1-year-old lamb, a male, and one without blemish.
So how are they going to do that? They need a calendar. Read.
They just randomly pick something, This lamb was killed at the twilight on the 14th, and its blood was sprinkled over the 2 doorposts and the lintel of the house where it was eaten. On the following day, the 15th, the Feast of Unleavened Bread began.
The following day, the 15th, isn't that a holy day? A Shabbat? Okay. Now, was the 15th a Shabbat? Yes. If so, what date did the previous Shabbat occur? When will the following occur? Or the following Shabbat occur? So if the 15th day is a Shabbat and you count 7 days before that, you should have another Shabbat. If you on the 15th move forward, you should also find another Shabbat. Because if you're using the numbers to know when to get a lamb, why do you switch from that and go to a Roman calendar to keep a Shabbat?
That's his stupidness.
And if the full moon determined Passover, which always is the 14th, and if we count in reverse, what date will the Shabbat occur? So here we have an example of April 2024, the 16th, which is a Tuesday. That was when the new moon was seen, sighted, I believe, sighted, right?
The evening part of it, yeah.
So all right. So this is a new moon. If this is a new moon, all right, and this is a Tuesday, the 16th, then this is the new moon. This should be, for some people, this will be the first day, which don't make any sense. But let's say the 17th is the first day. How do you get how is Saturday the Shabbat?
That's the problem that they're having. See, again, they want to deal with bricklayers, the brick system, Egypt's calendar, set dates, not understanding that the Most High deals fluidly, always changing.
So basically, Hebrews are using two different calendar systems, two different ones, family, and that's the problem. Time was never set by looking at a piece of paper. That's the first thing. This is what the Theological Dictionary of the New Testament have to say. Volume 4, page 640. This says, the new moon festival maintained its importance in the Jewish cultus up to the New Testament times. Read it again. The new moon festival maintained its importance in the Jewish cultus up to the New Testament times. In other words, Peter would have known about a new moon. Paul would have known about it. The time was not set by astronomical calculations. So you're not sitting there and calculating anything, but it says, but by observation. You didn't sit there and says, well, let me calculate for the next year what that's going to be. We didn't do that stuff. We had to physically go out there and look to see if it's so. Jewish law demanded that as many witnesses as possible should report the appearance of the sickle or the cycle, that little sliver, to the appropriate authorities. So when you see that little sickle, that little piece of the moon, you report it to the authorities. So as the sister says here in this picture here, Roman garbage. This whole calendar system that we use today is a bunch of garbage, okay? This is nonsense. Yes, Sister Zahara, is definitely nonsense. Definitely nonsense. Let's move on. The moon as a measure of time. After sunset, brother, after sunset? Come on. In non-biblical use, originally means the moon as a measure of time. So this is the Theological Dictionary of the New Testament, volume 4. They're saying that the moon was used to measure time. Moon as a measure of time. The root, which is tied into measure. Mm-hmm. Then the portion of time marked off by the moon, the month. This begins originally with the new moon. So it begins. The time begins with the new moon, and then if it begins with the new moon, it starts to roll out.
Tick, 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 or.
Exactly. Okay.
Move. Hence the number. You want me to continue reading?
You can read.
Only here. With the reform of the calendar under Solon, which is
was this change?
Y'all
see that? Go ahead.
With the other heavenly bodies, the moon was created that there might be time. Y'all see that? Okay.
It goes. This is probably Plato, I guess. Plato or something.
It goes round the earth in the sphere nearest to it. Its course embraces a month. Mm-hmm. Its progress has helped to give man the concept of number and time.
Y'all see that? So the moon has helped, because we can't look at the sun. You get blind. We have to look at the shadows of the sun. All right, the moon, the new moon.
The new moon first denotes the beginning of the month. That's very simple. That's for people to still have to come back and explain this all the time. for people who get all the classes, you have a learning disability. That's how I would put it, because it is so simple, Mishpachah. The moon is designed to let us know the months. And how do we count the weeks of the days? When we have the sighting of the new moon, meaning the first new light that's given, you start your count and you go from there.
All right, let's move
That's
on.
as easy as it goes. So if that doesn't work for you because you want to live in the system of the workforce of Saturday and Sunday and stuff like that, then just say that. But don't say that what we're teaching here is false, because everything that we're showing you here does say of the Most High. It's there.
I want you to read this lower part here. For them,
however, the moon was only a measure of time. Who's the them? And if there are references to a rule of the moon, it is understood quite plainly that this is given it by the one Elohim.
Y'all see that? The moon was given as a measure of time.
For us.
And then you have scripture that refers to the rule of the moon. Psalms 136 and 9, Genesis 1 and 16. It is understood quite plainly that this is given by the one Elohim, the one true Elohim. Okay? Let's look at Ezekiel chapter 26 real quick. I'm gonna try to pick up a lot of speed here, family, so I'll be skipping through some things. If later on, you can always go back and look at the entire portions. All right, let's read Ezekiel 26.
Ezekiel 26 and verses 1. And it came to pass in the 11th year, in the first day of the month.
So there's a first day of the month, which is the moon. Go ahead.
That the word of Yahuwah came unto me, saying.
All right, let's go to 29.
Verse 29.
No, chapter
29.
Verse 17.
Verses 17.
29 and 17. All right, let's get it.
And it came to pass in the 7th and 20th year, in the first month, in the first day of the month.
See that? So we're acknowledging that there's a month and there's a first day. Every month has a first day. I'm just trying to make it as easy as possible. I'm separating the hard stuff in the milk and trying to give them some water of the milk. Because I can't take the white of the milk. We're going to try to give the water of the milk. Now this is, let's get Haggai 1 and 1. Haggai 1 and 1, because a lot of people don't even know what that is, but let's get it. 1 and 1. Let's read, Brother Shay.
In the 2nd year of Darius the king, in the 6th month.
6th month.
In the first day of the month.
That's all we need. The first day of the month. So we see all of this. Psalms 104. Let's get Psalms 104. Psalms 104. And we're going to read that. Then we're going to read it in a different version. Psalms 104. Psalms 104. And verses 19. Let's read.
He appointed the moon for seasons. Who's the he? The Most High. He's the one that appointed the moon for seasons. The sun knoweth his going down.
Y'all see that? Okay, so let's go back here. Let's read the WYC version. Psalms 104, 19. Read.
He made the moon into times.
Into what?
Into times.
Into times. Y'all see that? Go ahead.
The sun knew his going down. Thou hast made the moon for telling times or months. And the sun, it knoweth it's time to go down and when to set.
All right. Enough of that. This is Samuel Bacchiochi. Bacchiochi is like bacteria or something. Anyway. Now, some say he's a Seventh Adventist. Others say he's a Jesuit spy. I don't know, but we're going to look at something because he put out a book, God's Festivals in Scripture and History, Part 2, the Fall Festivals. Let's see what he says. Quote,
since the dates of the new moon were determined in ancient Israel by actual observation. Notice
he's saying he's an Adventist guy or Jesuit, either one, it is still the same family, right? That the dates of the new moon, you had to go out and physically see. Go ahead.
The appearance of the new moon was essential to the stability of the civil.
Civil is business. what we do as far as regular work and everything else. Go ahead.
And religious calendar.
And when we have to worship.
See, but they flip it around now, and they're doing everything opposite. So instead of having it accordingly, now they say, okay, we're gonna go by what we want to do because we want to have a 24-hour business monetary system coming in. So that's why you have the times change, and you have factories and stuff open up 24/7.
Yes, Elder, what's on your mind?
I observed you mentioned about religious calendar.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if he said that, what's about the other calendar that the world give? Is it appear to me that must be not, that to me is not religious calendar.
The world tells you it's not religious, but it really is because I have Christmas on it. Okay, so it's religious. All right, so he's saying it signify worship regular. Read for us, please.
It signifies worship regularity in the observance of the annual feast, which were dependent upon appearance of a new moon.
All right. So what's wrong with his assessment? He's saying annual feasts, which were dependent upon appearance of a new moon. What's wrong with his assessment? Because he says, since the dates of the new moon were determined in ancient Israel by actual observation. Yes, that's correct. V60.
That's
thin Q5G.
That's the mercy. She's her phone.
Oh, okay. It's the mercy. That's right. It's the mercy. He leaves out the weekly Shabbat. That is correct. So he's tying it to an annual thing. But before you get to the annual, you must get the monthly, and then within the monthly, you must get the daily and so forth, right?
You can't separate it, basically. Yeah. But what people are trying to do is separate it to have distinction in order to make commerce.
Mm-hmm. And I think he says it's rightly identifying their calendar is a Monica. That's true too. That's true too.
You're going to cover that, right?
Using these luminaries, hold on a second. Using the luminaries, how do we all keep the feast like Passover, seeing it's summertime? And okay, we'll cover that in a separate teaching. So it's a good question. Yeah, send it to me. It's a good question. Okay, so you live down in South Africa. We're over here in America. And America and South Africa are on two different schedules. In South Africa, right now, it is summer, hot, blazing summer. Hot, blazing summer in South Africa. When we're keeping Passover, they're keeping something else, okay? And that's a question that we have to address in a separate teaching, all right? We can make it easier. Everybody that's in South Africa, move up. Move up to Jerusalem area. But that's not... That's going to be a little different. All right, let's read truth from your trusty academics like Louis Finkelstein. Your trusty academics.
Filthy Stein.
Let's read.
The ancient Jewish calendar depended not on mathematical calculations and arrangements, but was set from month to month according to the physical appearance of the new moon. Mm-hmm. Physical appearance. That means you have to go outside and look. Physically look and see.
All right.
Witnesses who had seen the first sign of the crescents on the horizon after sunset were expected to report the fact to the authorities, who thereupon published throughout the country the fact that the new month had begun. All
right, y'all see that? Okay.
Same thing we say.
Don't take our word for it. Get your trusted authorities, your trusty academics.
Finkelstein.
All right, let's read a portion. We're not going to do all of it. Just going to keep going through.
Until Hillel II instituted a permanent calendar based on calculations.
So you had an Israelite who decided to fix things based on calculations. Go ahead.
The fixing of the new moon was determined by observation and the evidence of witnesses.
All right, let's skip down right over here.
In all Israel, the new moon, the day after the crescent was first sighted in the sky, was celebrated by sacrifice and feasting.
Y'all see that? So all of these people acknowledge these are professors of history, of religion, Harvard,
Yale,
y'all see that? Do y'all see it? Now, y'all want to go fight, go to Harvard and fight with them. I'm just reading excerpts from their stuff, right? So the calendar, the paper calendar is a bunch of garbage. All right, the phases of the moon, read.
The phases of the moon could easily be recognized by everybody.
By who?
Everybody.
See how simple? So you don't need a degree to know the truth. Go ahead.
The new moon indicated the beginning of the month.
Read.
Though the new moon could be observed by every individual, to prevent any mistakes or doubt, the duty of fixing the new month was assigned to the rabbinical council in Jerusalem.
Read on.
Their decision was subject to the testimony of two reliable witnesses. That's something we've been saying from day one. As soon as their reports had been received and checked by astronomical calculation, an official message was sent out by chains of fire signals.
Y'all see that? All right. Now, this is
Einstein trying to count down there.
April 2024 once again. And this is a calendar that has the moons on it. The new moon, which supposed to begin the month, is right here on the 8th, right?
This is what the heathen say the new moon is.
On the 8th, right? Okay. So if that be the case, then this should be the first day. And then look what they have. This is Saturday, Roman 7th day. Then you have Passover right over here on the 14th, 24th. Y'all see that? Now, when you look at the way this is structured, and you have to count new moon, first day, let's say that they do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The 7th day would be what? A Sunday. Y'all see that? Or if they go the 9th being the first day, that'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That means that the 15th of this month here, this April 2024, this will be the 7th day. So you could never get the 7th day that way. So if you have if you're following the new moon or have the new moon in here, how is Saturday part of this count? Because you have to have, it's like you're having two calendars.
That's what it is.
If you count 7 days before the 14th, which is down here, shouldn't that be noted as a Sabbath? So this is the full moon, which is the 14th, and this is supposed to be Passover night for 7 days before that, right? So this is the 14th or the 7th, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So this would be what? This would be a Sabbath too on the 17th. Y'all see that? Because either you stay with the Most High, if he says this is the 14th of this month, and the full moon lets us know that this is also tied into Passover, then if I go 7 days in the past, this should be a Sabbath. I shouldn't be going Saturday and then switching up, because if you do that, you can have confusion. Even Einstein can't even figure it out.
He's the accountant right now. He's still trying to figure it out.
Okay. All right. Let's move on.
It's just.
This is a true calendar.
That's the 9, that's the 10, that's the 11, that's the 12.
You see, the old moon, go back here. Old moon was here. If you notice, it's dark here. The Gentiles call it a new moon when it's dark. Ancient historians have shown that ancient peoples always look for a sliver of light, crescent, something to see that you can physically see, to know time. We already covered that. So what do? We don't pick it up from here. We pick it up from the time it's seen. Then we put our count. And so this is what we have here. April 9th was the last. The new moon is seen then. And then we have the first day, which is the new moon day right over here.
Count the days.
And then you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 working days. And then you have a day of rest. Y'all see the 6 working days right here? 6th day of work. Then you have the 7th day of rest.
So what you're saying, Rebbe, is every new moon day that whatever it falls on, that day is going to be a Shabbat.
Yes. The new moon day after that is going to be a Shabbat, because the new moon is a time off with the family. You can do things around your house, but you can't do like work for anyone, and things of that nature. And then you follow up with the 6 working days, and then you rest. Then you have another 6 working days, and you rest, and so forth and such like. If you notice carefully, Passover is on the 14th here, which is April 23rd here. And you go backward 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. What do you find? You find the Shabbat, right? I mean, I'm sorry. Let me count. Let me go here because this is the moon. Then you have the 15th, which is a Shabbat. You count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So you have a Shabbat right here. Okay. So when you count backward, you should find your Shabbat.
Falls into place.
You should always find your Shabbat, no matter how you look at this thing. If you look at this from this calendar, you're always going to go wrong because you're working with 2 calendars. Either you keep the Gregorian as Saturday, and then you count from, okay, let's say Saturday is the 7th day. Then you should be counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So the 13th right here will be 7th. So this is April. The 14th, which is Sunday, would have been your Passover at nighttime. Then the 15th would have been your Feast of Unleavened Bread. Y'all see that? Then you continue on until you have your times and so forth. But people don't do that. They bounce back and forth. They use the luminaries for the Passover, and then they jump back into Saturday for their time.
Caesar's calendar, yeah.
All right. Observation is still done, and we still have to notify our people by fire. Let's read.
The Sanhedrin was assembled in the courtyard, Bet Yazdek, of Jerusalem on the 30th of each month from morning to evening, waiting for the reports of those appointed to observe the new moon. And after the examination of these reports, the president of the Sanhedrin, in the presence of at least 3 members, called out, the new moon is consecrated.
That's the Nasi. The Nasi. Question, on the new moon day, can you buy and sell? No, we're not supposed to. We're supposed to avoid that. Okay. All right, let's move on. So you can see you notify the public with fires. Let's see what Josephus have to say about the whole thing. Let's read down here.
In the month of
Xanthicus,
which is by us called Nisan, and is the beginning of our year on the 14th day of the lunar month, when the sun is in Aries. For in this month it was that we were delivered from bondage under Egypt.
All right, let's skip down here. Let's skip down here. The feast.
The Feast of Unleavened Bread succeeds that of the Passover and falls on the 15th day of the month.
And that's a holy day. Okay, so the 14th day of the lunar month, when the sun is in Aries, so it goes from the ram. What do we have on Passover? A lamb, right? So we go through that phase. Even the luminaries let us know different things. All right, let's move on. 7-day week. This is from Frederick
Deltsky, and others suggest that the 7-day week, being approximately a quarter of a lunation, is the implicit astronomical origin of 7-day week.
It's time to eat.
Yeah.
Astronomical origin
of the 7-day week.
All right.
And indeed, the Babylonian calendar used intercalary days to synchronize the last week of the month with the new moon.
All right, Brother Shea, we almost there. We almost done. Sunday, a public holiday. In 321 CE, Emperor Constantine the Great officially decreed a 7-day week in the Roman Empire. Notice it says he officially decreed a 7-day week in the Roman Empire, including making Sunday a public holiday. This later spread across Europe, then the rest of the world. So the question is, what was the rest of the world doing?
Something else.
Something different. All right, let's move on. This is the works of Philo.
Philo, the Jewish historian who wrote in the 1st century records, at the time of the new moon, the sun begins to illuminate. the moon,
Y'all see that?
with a light which is visible to the outward senses, and then she displays her own beauty to the beholders.
All right, read.
For when we say that from morning to evening there are 12 hours, or from the new moon to the end of the month there are 30 days, we are included in our enumeration both the first hour and the day of the new moon.
Both the first hour and the day of the new moon. So in that 30 days, it begins with number 1, and number 1 day has the first hour.
It's too hard.
From morning to evening.
It's too hard.
Y'all see that? So if you see the moon at night, you can't count that as a day. You got to wait for what? The morning.
The sun to come up.
For the sun to come up.
Begins the day.
To mark the day. And with that marking of the day, that's the first hour of sunlight. That's the first time of the day. It moves on. Anyway, I'll leave it at that. But Pinker says, uh-oh. Okay. Not fixed. All right, not fixed. Let's see. The fourth
commandment has reference to the sacred seventh day, that it may be passed in a sacred and holy manner. Now, some states keep the holy festival only once in a month, counting from the new moon as a day sacred to Elohim, but the nation of the Jews keep every 7th day regularly after each interval of 6 days.
Y'all see that? So the moon have a lot to do with the same thing, with the luminaries, with the days of the week.
See, go back a minute. See, it says as a day sacred to Elohim. But, see the but there?
Yeah, that's the big but.
The big but that the system, when it says the nation of Jews, is talking about today's so-called Ashkenazi people and the rest of the Christian world or whatever. They use the interval of 6 days. So they say the moon is irrelevant, but God says the moon is relevant.
All right, we're gonna run through this real quick for time's sake and for our sake too, because we're a little bit tired. I'm a little tired.
And the 4th commandment, the one about the 7th day, we must not look upon in any other light than as a summary of all the laws relating to festivals.
So he's saying that the 4th commandment, the one about the 7th day, we must not look upon it in any other light, than as a summary. When we see the 4th commandment, that's a summary of all the feast days. Remember, I've told you all that before. I've told you all that the commandments is divided like the food groups. You have the protein, you have your milk, not your milk, your dairy, right?
Dairy,
eggs, cheese, beans, and so forth, right? That's your protein,
your meat
part. Then you have your fruits and whatever,
and vegetables, and you have your fats.
So basically, the 4th commandment, in the 4th commandment segment, you have all the things. So the Most High don't have to come out and says,
look for the new moon.
Keep the new moon holy. The Feast of Tabernacles holy. He don't need to say all that. It's a summary.
And the commandment says,
when he says adultery, he's not giving you a breakdown whether you smell the woman's perfume, that's adultery. There's a breakdown to that.
Some Hebrews want to be spoon-fed. They like the word to word. If they don't see it, they don't believe it.
All right, let's read the lawgiver.
The lawgiver refers to
actually, let me see. Let's read that. And
in speaking of the 7th here, I mean both that which is combined with the number 6, the most generative of all numbers, and also that which, without being combined with the number 6, is added to it, being made to resemble the unit, each of which numbers is reckoned among the festivals.
Reckoned among the festivals. Okay, go ahead.
For the lawgiver refers to the term, the sacred festivals of the new moon, which the people give notice of with trumpets, and the day of fasting on, which abstinence from all meats and drinks is enjoyed, which the Hebrews call in their native language Pashak.
So that's a time. So instead of staying away from having the meats and the drinks and so forth, that's a time that you actually enjoy that particular. It's a festival. Okay. All right. Perfect. Let's look at this portion here. After he had ordered these things concerning the seventh day, he said that for the new moons it is necessary to offer 10 whole burnt offerings in all, 2 young bulls, 1 ram, and 7 lambs. For since the month is perfect in which the moon makes its way through its cycle, he thought that a perfect number of animals should be sacrificed. So Philo is making these connections with perfection of the moon. And Sirach even says in her perfection, right? Let's see. Do I want to read all of this? It talks about the 2 motions of the moon, the waxing, the full moon until it's full, the waning and all that stuff.
Let me ask this question. Who in the chat, Mishpachah, do not understand? Be honest with yourself. If you don't understand, put a 3, because you're confused somewhere along the lines. But if you understand, put a 1. If you understand but you don't believe it, put a 2. Put a 3 if you're confused, put a 1 if you understand, put a 2 if you don't believe.
Yeah, 2 if you're confused. Please, a 2.
No, 2 if you don't believe, a 3 if you're confused.
Oh, 3 if you're confused. Yeah. Okay.
So we can understand.
All right. So we're looking at a piece here called a shofar. Shofar, ram's horn, means trumpet, sometimes a cornet, and so forth. A trumpet, a horn. Used 72 times. Boy, my lips is tying up. 72 times. The word is related to the Akkadian shafaru, which is wild sheep. The Arabic sauerpharon, ram's horn. In the Old Testament, it is always used of the curved musical instrument made of the horn of a ram, curved. Now, when we see the curved horn, we also see the moon with a little thing too. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So let's see.
The word Yobel means basically ram. So also in Phoenician and Arabic, but in the Old Testament, it is used as an instrument and then as a name of the year whose beginning its signal.
See that? The year begins. The year is being signaled with that, with the instrument. All right, let's move on. So it's speaking about the shofar, and it says it was a signal for Israel to approach. The arrival of the new moon and the new year was heralded by a signal from the shofar. Y'all see that?
Blow that. Okay. Everybody realize it's...
When you look into the word shofar, it says this verb occurs only once as a pool participle, meaning, quote, cups shaped like almond. The idea of watchfulness, which is basic to the root, affords the key to the explanation of the Hebrew name for the almond tree. This tree, which in Israel blooms as early as January and February and is affectionately looked upon as the harbinger of spring, is appropriately enough called the waker. Which is interesting. So the almond tree is acknowledged as a waker. The almond tree is connected to the shofar. And 1 Corinthians, let me go here, because when do you normally sound, how do you wake people up? You got to sound what? An alarm, right? An alarm. I think it's kind of interesting how the Hebrew, because awaken for what? Let's look at 1 Corinthians 15. We're almost done, family. We're almost done. Please be patient with your brother. 15 and 52. 15 and 52. I know I'm messing things up because I'm tired. I'm tired.
In a moment. This is 1 Corinthians 15 and verse 52. In a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, at the last trump.
What's going to happen?
For the trump shall sound.
Trump is going to sound.
And the dead shall be raised incorruptible, and we shall be changed.
So you have a waker, which is a shofar. Remember, remember that the almond tree is also a sign to let you know something is happening. So you got signs. So with that said, for those who, after all that has been done, even with these two half-dead batteries right here, trying to put together to have some energy to push on in class, with all the energy that we have done our best. And if the Israelites can't get it, all they can do is open the door and say, aloha. Peace out.
Adios.
We say goodbye to the Greek because for some reason they can't understand the Hebrew. I hope if there's any Greeks among us,
get the stepping.
Family, do y'all think, let us know, have we tried our very best to address this thing here, family?
That's why I ask if there's any confusion, put a 3. And nobody put a 3, but when we close the screen off and we go, somebody's going to buzz the phone and they're going to ask about the new moon.
They're going to ask you.
They ain't asking me no more.
They're not calling me.
They asking me no more.
They're not contacting me. They'll call Elder. Elder, grab the mic. They're going to call you. Elder, come on now. You have to turn the other cheek. Which cheek are you going to turn? The left or the right cheek?
Take the mic, Elder. Take the mic.
Hold the mic, Elder, because we're closing up with prayer anyway.
Nobody's calling Elder. No.
Yes, Mr. Carr, this is common sense. Well, a lot of people don't have common sense, but this is really simple. And it's sad that our people struggle with the simple things that the Most High has put there for us to have, to help us dictate the times, the seasons, the Shabbat days, the feast days, all these different things.
Brother Gideon, you says you're confused about when you add a month to the year. Brother Gideon, we did a class covering that. We covered that entirely with Adar 1 and 2. The same way that sometimes within the month, let me ask this question, Brother Gideon. Did you understand where the month itself, sometimes you might end up having like 2 days? Do you understand that part?
The heathens will tell you.
Hold on. He says, yes. Okay. Then take that understanding and apply that to the months of the year. Because the same way that sometimes you find,
like they'll say February have a leap year, and then you have the next following year to have some. It's the same thing the heathen have their version of it.
Yes, the heathen. Listen, even the heathen, as Brother Shea is trying to explain here, even the heathen has to add in a leap year. All them calendars. We even showed one time how you have this practical calendar that the Gentiles came up with, where everything is going to match like stone, and in it they had to add something in it. All of them have to be added. All of them. There's no calendar that is without additions of something. We're not dealing with bricks, brethren. We're dealing with unhewn
stones. That's right.
And the same way that you may have, sometimes you may have like today's Shabbat, and tonight we see the moon, tomorrow is the first day. You know, you see that, okay, that works. But sometimes today's Shabbat, you look out, you don't see anything. The next day you see it, oh, hallelujah. That's 2 days. That's a 2-day period. And the Bible covers that. Now, ancient Israel did not write out, come, my child. And we will, but they don't write it out because it was just something part of the culture. Like,
common practice.
Because even Saul said it must be, where's David that he's not here with us today at the feast? Jonathan, where's your best friend? Mm-hmm. Maybe he's unclean because you couldn't show up if you lay with your wife or wives. He had 18 wives. Which one? Mm-hmm. So from the time he lay down with a woman, he couldn't come into the thing, right?
Yeah.
Couldn't sit down with the assembly and eat. I hope that everybody has gained some understanding, and I'm sorry for sounding a little bit tough, Brother Gideon, but I'm not trying to be tough with you. But we did do a class on that. The same way that you have cycles on a weekly, the weekly adds up to a monthly. The same way that even sometimes within a day, all days are not the exact same thing. You have shifts and changes. The day may be 12 hours. Next thing is 11 and change. You know what I mean? And then there's a progression.
Seasonal,
Things change, man.
seasonal.
The most I don't say, we're going to flip the light on here hard, put the light on your eyes, and then flip it up, poof, and flip it back on, poof.
He gave you the transition between that.
It goes like this: long days and short days, long days and short days. Okay. What if our count is off? For instance, we keep Shabbat. Okay, so that's what you do. It's almost like if your count is off, you just have to watch when you see the full moon and you see how it goes back down to dark. Eventually, you'll catch up with that. This is why I said in my older classes, if you were Gilligan, if you were what's the guy stuck on an island?
Yeah, the family Swiss Robinson or somebody who's stuck on an island. Yeah,
Castaway. If
yeah.
you're a shipwreck on an island, you woke up, the crabs is nipping on the bud, nipping on your toes, right? You wake up, you don't know how long. You have no paper calendar. You're half naked. Coconuts is above your head. You wake up, and then you start to look around from a daze. You don't know. First thing Ella's going to do is drink his coconuts. If he can find a machete. If not, Ella said he's going to look around. Then you start looking up. You look up to see what's going on with the moon. You look at the day to see what hour of the day it is by sticking something into the ground. And based on the shadow, you'll know the time, the hours. And then when the sun sets, you look for a moon. And after a period of observation, you will gradually get in sync with that, and you will never be wrong after that.
And one of the things that I always do too, as just to kind of confirm it too, especially like when next Shabbat coming up, Mr. Picard, do this. I want everybody to listen carefully.
You're giving them an assignment?
I'm giving them an assignment.
Well, you're going to follow up with that assignment.
No, I ain't
Don't call Brother Shea. I mean, Brother Yona. Call Brother Shea.
No. During class, I'm going to ask this question. So you go outside the night before Shabbat. So today is what the heathens. What's today? Tuesday.
Yep.
The heathens Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
So next week, Monday night, the heathens Monday night, we will have a full moon. You go on Google and you type in how full is the moon, and it will tell you, it would say either 98, 99, or 100%. Then you'll know that is the full moon, and you know the next day is the Shabbat. That's just an example to show you, to give you some more confirmation if you're confused.
But it's not 100% because the Gentiles will have a variation. It'll say 100%. They'll say the moon is new, and it's not. You can't see anything.
No. But I'm saying I'm using it according to.
I understand what you're saying.
We already have established.
I understand what you're saying. What I'm trying to say is that even when you do check on the Gentile stuff, you're gonna find it is not perfect because they're already set in their curriculum, just like they did about Pluto is the planet. And then in my time, later on, it was a planet. Now in the little lights time, it's not a planet anymore. It's just something else.
It's a rock, a burning.
So you can't use that. That's why you have to physically go look at stuff. With that said, thank you all. Brother Pincus says the calendar is similar to a fractal pattern. Okay, Brother Pincus, the scientists. Thank you so much, Brother Pincus, and many others who understand it. So nobody put a 2 or 3. I guess everybody understands it. And believe you me, I have a record of all who didn't say anything. So when you cometh to me, I shall rebuke thee. With that said, we say shalom. Thank you, Brother O'Shea. We're looking forward to the next class. Brother O'Shea is going to take that on. My battery's running a little bit low, as you can see. But I'm grateful for the strength that the Most High has given both of us that we can be here.
Hallelujah.
Elder, can you close out with a word of prayer?
All praises to the Most High.
Hallelujah.
All praises, Father, for the teaching you have given, the Shabbat. Your blessing, we thank you. The words, Father, we thank you. Everything that was said and done, Father, we love it and we thank you for it. We thank you for the blessing of the day. We ask you to remember those that have lost their loved ones, those that are sick. Father, comfort their hearts. and do a miracle in each life, that your people will be comforted. We thank you for our teacher, Brother Yana, also Brother Oshe, our teacher likewise. Bless them as they teach and read. Father, we pray that thou may bless the offerings that was given, and those that could not give, Father, we ask you to bless, provide for them another time that they too may be able to have and to give, that your words will be fulfilled. We thank you for the food that is prepared that we will eat. We ask a blessing upon it. Bless us all. Remember those that don't have, provide for them. We ask you to bless us and help us to enjoy the rest of the Shabbat, because we thank you through your Son Yeshua, we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Let the words of our mouth
and meditation of our hearts
be
be acceptable in your sight.
O
Oh, yeah, our strength and our Redeemer.
Hallelujah. Love you all. Stay strong. Stay sharp. May the Most High bless you all. We say shalom.